Blade Runner as a series has always been the question, what does it mean to be human? I loved Blade Runner's attention to detail. This is probably one of, if not the most believable, dystopian worlds in fiction. The diverse races, cultures, and languages everywhere, the obvious, uncomfortable, and borderline feeling of dread present in the dirty and gritty futuristic Los Angeles, the mysterious nature of the LAPD, and so much more. Blade Runner 2049 is a modern classic already. One thing I loved about Blade Runner was the themes of the non-human characters becoming more than their programming. Kay is a loner, an introvert, a Blade Runner made strictly for killing Nexus 8s or Rogue 9s. Kay may be the only replicant Blade Runner in LAPD, since Joshi is orbiting around him all the time. All hate is directed towards him, and all replicant targets are mailed to him. He thought he was a replicant his whole life. He is fine with it, being ordered around, mocked, hated, but he knows that he is a replicant. Then the thought that he is a human hits him like a freight train, and everything changed. Kay is so nuanced and complex, and you get to see him grow from a replicant that won't rebel because he thinks he can't, to a person with free will. By the end, it doesn't matter if he was born or created. It is unarguable that he has a soul. I loved every second of Jared Leto's performance. Such a terrifying, sinister, yet soothing and charming character. I loved the entire Wallace Corp sequence. Every shot, the lighting, the music just lets you know how ominously powerful Wallace has become. Tyrell's pyramids were a symbolic representation of his owner's self-perception, like a pharaoh or a god, but with Wallace headquarters rising above them, you can tell how big Wallace is or thinks of himself, bigger than a god. Wallace posed the question about whether Deckard was moved by love or programming. The original movie is about a bad man finding his humanity through the grace of a machine. Wallace's question is not a literal "are you human" or robot question, but pondering what the difference is. If love is just a chemical, and if we are products of biological programming or something higher like a soul, the ultimate takeaway is that it does not matter. In fact, the only thing that matters is what we choose to do with our lives. If Kay started feeling human, he would have failed baseline tests. He does that once he knows that he is a product of love, not the result of a mathematical calculation. To pass the test, he needs to feel like a replicant. Replicants of his model are incapable of lying or disobeying orders. So Kay deceived Joshi into thinking that the replicant child was dead by deliberately being vague. He didn't mention that there were two children or that he believed that he was the other one. I'm glad the director didn't try to go overboard on selling his test fail to the audience. It doesn't need to show Kay freaking out. Just a quick half-second pause was perfect. It shows just how severely they are watching for what they call an anomaly. They have Kay under a microscope. If his boss hadn't saved him, he would have been killed right then and there in that station. I think that deep down, Joshi fell in love with Kay, how she's let him go, giving him a second chance, knowing that he wouldn't pass that baseline test, but gave him enough time to just maybe flee. Also, she sacrificed herself when love confronted her. Joy and Kay's relationship is probably open to interpretation, at least in regards to whether or not Joy had real feelings for Kay. She's an artificial intelligence, but who's to say that even an AI can't grow beyond its programming and experience actual emotion? After all, that's the basis behind the replicants as well. The trouble starting from them having feelings and no basic emotional foundation from which to deal with them. Who's to say that Joy, even though that she's a hologram with programmed responses, can't begin to develop emotions as well? With the help of Joy, Kay begins to believe in himself. Here is everyone telling him what he is and when he's not, and what he should or shouldn't do. And deep inside, he has these feelings. Whether they are fabricated by the outside world or not, what is real to him is his own experiences, whether real or illusionary. It shows that he is done being hurt and that he has recovered with a new purpose, to bring a father and a daughter together. From his experience, he would rather be someone who creates love than destroy it. That Joy advertisement scene is heartbreaking because Kay realizes how much he misses Joy. Sure, he is aware that she is a computer program, but he loved her. They experienced friendship, attraction, companionship, and love. Those were all emotions he exclusively experienced with her. It isn't so much a matter of him realizing Joy is a mass-produced program tailored for everyone's needs, but rather Kay experiencing what is it like to be human. Heartbreak, love, and loneliness are part of it too. I think that Kay was a decoy, or rather an intentional plant. The rebels were just scrambling the DNA records that Kay viewed. Fraser indicated that Stellene was practically a messiah to both Nexus and Wallace replicants, because Stellene was the offspring of a replicant, and she provided much of the Wallace generation with humanizing memories. During Kay's interaction with Stellene, the audience is told that artists always put some of themselves in their art. However, the wooden horse memory was one that was actually lived, while the others possibly borrowed a tiny detail from her past. Stellene recognized the tragedy of implanting Kay with that memory, as he was entirely convinced that the memory was his. He also had a wooden horse to prove it. She was heartbroken with what she had done. It is ironic that the Dreammaker literally makes memories, aka life, for replicants, but she can't live life fully herself. And Fraser also said that we all hope to be the child, which probably meant that the other rebels could also have that same memory. In summary, 2049 is about dreams and delusions. Kay wants desperately to be special. Joy tells him this constantly, and he instantly assumes all the evidence points towards him because it's his dream. He becomes deluded and forces himself into the situation, even as it destroys him. He thinks that this is what it means to be human. To grapple with one's humanity, he is torn between two sides telling him what his identity is and should be. The LAPD, who informs his identity, is that of a slave, and the resistance, which informs his identity as that of a free replicant. When his delusion is shattered by meeting the Pink Joy, he chooses to follow his own path and not let anyone tell him who he is or what he should do. He makes the most human decision and takes his life into his own hands. He saves Deckard for the same reason Roy did. He wanted someone to remember him, for his final decision that fully validates him as a human and not be in vain. No one else gave him his identity, only he did, and his sacrifice ensured that he was by every metric a human being, even if the world would ultimately forget him.